Hey there, it's Dr. Scott. First of all, I want to apologize for having to cancel class on Friday. As I said in my email, something came up kind of unexpected, and couldn't be in town. I want to apologize also because we have a long way to go in the class, and every class kind of matters. And I think we're going to be fine. We have about half of the semester left, so when we come back from break, we'll be hitting the ground running, and I'm getting to work on those final research projects and your literature review and your annotated bibliography. So for Friday, I asked you to do a discussion board post. It's more or less about writing a literature review. This discussion board post that I'd like you to complete by the end of this weekend is about writing an annotated bibliography entry. An annotated bibliography entry is, it summarizes a source, and you probably learned that from reading in Argument Today. But it also talks a little bit about what the source can do for your overall research project. So what I want to do is kind of walk you through how to write one, and I'm going to give you kind of an example that'll show up here on the screen. So just in kind of like the form of an annotated bibliography entry, it starts like this. So this is a citation in APA format. I single space my annotated bibliographies. You can double space it. I really don't care about that. But this is a annotation like it would be in a reference list in APA. And what you do is this is what you start off with when you write an annotated bibliography entry. So this is actually the first source that we read for Wednesday's activity, where we kind of mapped out 3 or 4 different sources that we're talking about cancer rates in Southern Ohio and in the region. So I'm going to use that as kind of that first article. It's the article by Randy Ludlow from the Columbus Dispatch. I'm going to use that kind of as our example. So you set it up, and this, I kind of borrowed this almost exclusively from the Little Shawnee Handbook. So Ludlow, comma, R, period. We don't do first names in APA. We got the date, and for newspapers you also include the date, the month, and the day. So we have year, month, day. And then we have the title, and they do this funky thing where they don't capitalize everything like they do in MLA. They do capitalize proper nouns like Ohio, Ohio River, Portsmouth, EPA, because it's it's the title of an agency. And then we have the Columbus Dispatch, which they actually do kind of capitalize all that stuff. And if you're thinking back to your first essay that you turned in and didn't think that you got that right, that's okay. It's not that big a deal. It's just something that APA expects, so it's something you should know about as you leave this class and start writing in your disciplines. So that is the first line of an annotated bibliography entry. So what I'm going to do is kind of give you an example, and I'm going to write a little bit, and I'll pause this and then I'll write. I'm going to give you an example of what an annotated bibliography entry does. So hold on one second. Okay, I'm back. So I wrote up this annotated bibliography entry. And just really quickly, if you don't remember how to do this, I wanted to show you how to do the hanging indent in APA and in MLA format. The second and third and fourth or whatever lines after the first line in a reference list entry, it needs to come in like this. And I guess you could tab it over, but sometimes Word kind of messes up, and it tries to do that with everything after this. So what you can do is you can tell Word that I want just the second line to come in, and that's using this right here. So this is your hanging indent thing, and you drag it to the ½ inch mark. This is 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, so you want to drag it to the ½ inch mark, and so now that looks the way it should. So here, this is a short article, so it's not as long as your annotated bibliography entries need to be for your assignment that's due, in a few weeks. This is kind of just practice, and it's about a pretty short source. So what it does here, I just kind of walk through and I kind of provide some specifics. You don't want to just say cancer rates are really high in Scioto County, because that's not going to be really useful. What will be useful is you kind of saying, all right, these are the 3 or 4 really important data points that I saw in the article that I read. And so that's what the first half, or the first, I guess, 2/3 of this entry does. The second half, or 1/3, it comments on that information and kind of talks about how I might use that in the source. And now some of y'all did that with your research journals, and that's great. I wasn't very picky about the way the research journals looked, but I am going to be a little bit pickier about this for the annotated bibliography. This is more or less what the document should look like. And so for your assignment that's due by the end of this weekend, I want you to take the source that's at the end of that packet, and it's the 538 source. And it's called Cancer Rates Are Dropping But Not in Rural Appalachia. That's a longer, wait, is that the right one? That is not the right one. I apologize. It's Ohio Fails on Cancer Control Policies, Study Finds. So you're going to read that article, and then you're going to come up with your own annotated bibliography entry. And I kind of want you to do the same setup. Have an APA-style citation to begin, provide a summary of important data points that are in the article, and then comment on it. And the way that you'll want to do it for your paper is you'll want to comment on how the source could be useful in your paper. And you see me writing about that here. I kind of say, I can use a source to help me compare cancer rates, and I also note that it's not really an academic source, but it could provide some useful background. So I kind of note that, all right, this may not be a wonderful source, but it could do some work in my paper, and I want to see you guys be able to do that as well. This is just to help me kind of understand where you guys are at with this, to make sure that you kind of get what an annotated bibliography entry looks like. I'm going to give you feedback over break. When we get back from break, I'm going to start asking for, hold on one second, there's somebody really loud outside my office. Okay. So I think I was trying to say, when we get back from break, I'm going to ask for 2 or 3 sources. I'm going to give you guys time in class on the Monday we get back to work on finding sources for your final research paper and start building your annotated bibliography. But I want to see that you guys get this general structure here, and that you get some practice at doing that. Knowing you guys a little bit, it's going to be this stuff up here. Some of you have a tendency to kind of bullshit your way through these and through summaries of your sources. You need to get in there and you need to provide some data, some specifics that really kind of show that you understand what's important in the source and then what's important in the source that might be used later on in your paper. The commentary gets you talking about how you might use those specifics in your paper. Now again, you're not going to be using this for your final you're not going to be using the article that you're reading for this discussion board post. You're not going to be using that for your final paper. So you can kind of talk about, like, if you were to write a research paper, here's how you might use this. And so you might not do all that well here for this discussion board post, but I need to see that you kind of give it a shot. This definitely matters when you're writing annotated bibliography entries for your paper. All right. That's 8 minutes solid of Dr. Scott babbling. If you have any questions, do please let me know. I'll be in town. The only reason I'm leaving town tomorrow morning is to take my wife to the airport. And again, I apologize about that. All right. I hope you guys have a great break, and I will talk to you when we get back.